We have been talking for the last several episodes about unpaid labor and how much work it actually is. And I do want to talk about something today that is part of that, and that's the fact that we can't just erase unpaid labor. I know we've been talking about it in terms of like how much it can take from us, but the reality is, unfortunately, we can't just delete it. What we can do, though, is find ways to learn to live with it, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. If you are new today, if you are new here, I am E. Prabilski, and this is Authority, where I spill the tea on the publishing industry. I have been in the publishing industry for almost 20 years as an author, editor, book publisher. I do public speaking. I'm on the board of directors for the Editorial Freelancers Association. I've been around for a hot minute, and I've done a lot of the things. And also, I desperately need a haircut, but we're not going to talk about the violence that my hair is choosing today, or the fact that it really all wants to stand up in directions I'm telling it not to. We're just going to keep going and ignore that. Unpaid labor takes up a lot of our energy, a lot of our time, and a lot of our focus. We've talked about how the unpaid labor associated with being a public figure can draw a lot out of us. We've talked about how emails and engagements and not having good boundaries can create an environment where we don't have any energy left at all for ourselves. And those are real. And at the same time, we cannot just delete unpaid labor. And our job isn't to get rid of it entirely. We're never going to, and so expecting ourselves to is an unfair and unrealistic expectation. Instead, we need to be making conscious choices about it, which has been kind of the refrain that I've been really hitting on for most of this segment. There is a fair amount of labor that's not paid that is really just structural to our jobs. I'm not going to get paid for responding to emails, but if I don't respond to my emails, then I'm not going to have clients anymore. I have to respond to those emails. I have to market my books. I have to market my editing services. I can't just not. It's built into our jobs as authors and editors and other creatives who might be watching this or listening to this. It's built into us. So what we can control are things like our habits, our defaults, whether or not we identify things in ourselves, whether or not we listen to ourselves when we're saying, hey, we really need a break. That's the kind of stuff that we can really change. We can't change the reality of whether or not we need to do a thing necessarily, but we can change our relationship to it. And so we need to identify what unpaid labor we have to keep, like I need to answer my emails, and what we can let go of. For example, you'll notice that this podcast is now every other week, and I'm focusing more on my written articles for my paid folks on Substack. Not because I don't care about everybody, because I do. I care about all of you. However, I also need to focus on things to some degree that have the best return on investment, and I can hammer out an article much faster than I can write, script, film, and then edit one of these. And as much as I enjoy this podcast, it doesn't earn me money technically. So, unpaid labor, but it's unpaid labor that I'm choosing to do. And it's unpaid labor that I think is important to me. So I'm putting boundaries around it that make sense for me and don't ask more than I can deliver, because writing and editing and posting and all of that stuff, one of these every week, was getting to be more than I could do along with my regular workload. So I had to realistically assess things. That's what I'm asking you to do, is take that kind of honest accounting of, what do I really need to do? What can I let go? What do I need to retain? What would be damaged if I stopped doing a thing? Now, I'm not going to stop doing this podcast. My heart is in it. I love what I do. And we also need to think about the things that we are doing and what our return on them is. This podcast for me is largely a labor of love. I love talking to you. I love sharing all of this information. I love connecting with people in the comments. I do this because I think it can genuinely help people. And so I'm going to keep doing it. It matches my values. And I also need to move to every other week for my own sanity. What is left of my sanity? Again, we're not going to talk about the hair. Okay, we're just not going to talk about it. That is the difference between chosen labor and assumed labor. I am choosing to do this. I'm not assuming that I have to, because in reality, if I stopped posting this podcast, I would have people who'd be very sad about that. I would have listeners who'd be like, oh, that's too bad. I'd have people who miss me, and I don't, again, I'm not planning on stopping, don't worry. But I wouldn't be losing much in terms of financial gain, but I'd be losing something in myself, because I've been, this whole thing, Authority started out as 13 Cents Short, a blog that I had for many, many years. Back when I first started publishing, back in 2008, I started blogging as 13 Cents Short. Then like a year ago, I decided to become Authority because 13 Cents Short was a fun name, but nobody understood it except me, and I kind of grew out of it. And Authority is the kind of silly, unhinged pun that I'm known for, and it works, because I am something of an authority figure in publishing, and I like tea and spilling the tea and the whole pun. Anyway, back to the point here. The distinction here is this is a labor that I've chosen, and that I love. I love doing this. I've loved doing this for almost 20 years, under various names. And it is work. But it's work that I find rewarding and is part of my values, so I'm keeping it. That's the kind of thing I want you to assess. If you have something that you're doing, something that means something to you, something you find valuable and meaningful to you, keep that thing. Us talking about unpaid labor and identifying the ways it can eat up our energy doesn't mean we have to delete all of it. It just means we need to be honest in our accounting with ourselves and with each other. That's the distinction. And there's also is the question of, is this structurally necessary? Is this something that I have to do? Like marketing, that's unfortunately part of the framework of your house. You can't just stop marketing because then nobody knows you exist. And you don't sell books. So we might not get paid for it, but it's absolutely necessary. We can and must continue doing that. But how much and what do we do? How much do we put into that marketing? How do we find ways to make it more efficient for ourselves so that when we're doing our marketing, we can kind of smooth things out? Are there ways we can automate using Zapier or other methods? I know AI is a hot button topic, but I will be completely transparent that I use it in an agentic manner. Agentic here meaning I use it to help me organize things. I use it to help me look at my schedule. I use it to help me make sense of project scope and organizing what I need to do when I need to do it, because I, as an autistic person, struggle really hard with executive function. And that unpaid labor of having to do all that organizational stuff was killing me. I now use Claude for that. I don't use it to write my stuff for me. I don't use it to edit anything for me. Everything you hear me say and all of the words that come out and all the things you see me type, those are all me. I'm not asking AI to write it for me. I'm doing that. It allows me to organize things and say, hey, go post these videos. Using Zapier and other stuff, I can have it go post videos that I have created authentically to social media using various different things. I can use it to say, hey, I need to schedule a meeting with XYZ at this time. Here's some parameters, just copy paste it out of the email and it'll go do it for me. That kind of thing is incredibly helpful for my brain. So those are ways that I'm cutting down on some of the structurally necessary but unpaid labor that allows me to focus more and have more energy for doing things like what I'm doing right now, talking to you. We know oftentimes, like I talked in my first video about unpaid labor, we have assumed things that we think we have to do. We assume we need to do it. Like, I know realistically that I don't need to respond to every email I get within an hour of getting it. I don't need to. I can absolutely close my work email and things can wait until the next business day. Most of the time. There are occasions where that is not true, but as a general rule, that's most of the time. So I can push that unpaid labor out of my relaxing space. I've recently been playing video games again. I struggle because I have tendonitis in my right forearm from a combination of Starbound, which is a video game that I played far too many hours of and gave myself tendonitis playing, and also typesetting, because typesetting is all clicking, and it is improved as the tools have improved. Affinity Publisher uses far less manual elbow grease than Adobe InDesign CS3 used back when I started, but I still have tendonitis. But I've been playing more video games and trying to spend more time doing things that I enjoy that help me unwind, because that unwind time is showing benefits in my ability to do my work. We can choose our projects. We can also choose our deadlines to some degree, particularly if you are self-publishing. You don't need to impose a really strict deadline on yourself that, oh my gosh, I have to get all of this done by like the end of the year. I've seen many authors come to me with this deadline of, I want to have this manuscript written in a month. And usually those are people who've never written a book before, so I'm just sitting here going, oh, okay, well, that's certainly a goal you have right there. I know authors who can bang out 80, 100, whatever ridiculous number, 1,000 words in a month. I know them personally. I watch them at work. I know they exist. We've got like Tony Lee, Kevin McLaughlin. Like, I know these people can do that, and they can do it because they are incredibly skilled at writing. That is their entire profession. They don't have, to my knowledge at least, any other like day jobs. So that is what they do. Most people are not them. I am not them. I have a day job as my editing. My editing is my day job. So don't create unhealthy deadlines for yourself, because that increases the amount of stress and unpaid labor, and assuming that we have to have this kind of deadline or that kind of deadline, it'll just come back to bite you in the end. Having a plan is a good thing, but you have to be realistic about it. There's also something to be said about the idea that we have to over-deliver on every single project in order to prove ourselves worthy, rather than just delivering the thing. I used to do that a lot. I used to do editing that the author hadn't actually requested. This is many, many years ago, so please don't judge baby Ellis when I was starting my editing projects. But I used to do types of editing that the author didn't request because I thought I was somehow adding value, and I was putting myself into this position where I was doing all of this extra work. That wasn't what the client really wanted me to do. They just wanted me to fix their commas, please and thank you. And I should have done that at the time, because it would have saved me a lot of work, but I assumed that I had to because I had to prove myself somehow. I didn't. We also have certain relationships occasionally with individuals in our world that take more than they receive. And I don't mean that, that's not directed towards anybody in my life. If you are listening to this and you happen to know me and we're friends, I'm not talking about you, okay? So this isn't about anybody who will ever hear this podcast. But there are certain work relationships, I've talked about it in previous podcasts, that are entirely extractive, where they just suck every ounce of energy and creativity out of you and leave you a smoking ruin and give you nothing back. You are not paid commensurate for that cost. And we assume that we have to because that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. We're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be whole, entire human beings, and doing your best, as I have learned, does not mean doing literally everything humanly possible within your power until you collapse. It means genuinely putting honest, forthright, direct effort into a thing to the best of your ability without destroying yourself. That's the part that I was always missing. As an autistic person, whenever I heard somebody say, hey, you gotta do your best, I always thought that my best had to be literally every single scrapping ounce of anything I had dedicated to this thing. And that's not what your best actually is. I've had to learn that at age 40, embarrassingly enough, but I'm not the only person having to learn that now, so if you are listening to this and haven't quite realized that your best isn't necessarily having to do literally everything and do it perfectly, then this is your sign. Chosen labor, on the other hand, is different than assumed labor. Chosen labor is one of those things that I invest in. I do a lot of unpaid but chosen labor. For example, I do a lot of mentorship. I do a lot of mentorship, and I love doing it. It is so rewarding for me. I don't make money off of it, typically, but I love doing it. And it really, again, it aligns with my values, and it gives something back to me because the people I'm mentoring, getting to watch them grow and develop and become more skilled and everything else, it feels good. I help run a large writing community over on Facebook, the Neurodivergent Writers Lounge. There's a Neurodivergent Editors Lounge too. You can come find us if you'd like to. And I help run that, and nobody gets paid for that. None of the admin team does. And yet we do it because we love it and it gives something back to us. It's valuable, unpaid work. It's not something that just takes from us because we're assuming we have to do it. It's something that I'm choosing to do because I love it. And I love the community, and it fits with things that matter to me. So finding the things that matter to you and that fit with you is an important step. It might help you kind of unlock some of that difficulty you have and help you find some of that space again. I have also definitely had times where I've gone beyond the contract because a project mattered to me. I have given a client more than they asked for on more than one occasion, or even done work entirely for free for people whose projects I felt I really could help and that it was important. And they couldn't pay me, but that was okay. I did it because I chose to, and I still feel really good that I chose to do those things, to be clear. That is chosen labor. I come at that from a very different perspective than I do from the feeling that I have to answer an email just because it came in. The difference is a decision to engage with the thing. I've chosen that. I want this. And I'm doing it knowing what it's going to cost me, but I'm doing it anyway because it matches something that I feel important in my world. There are also times where we have emotional labor that is unpaid. I call myself, not so jokingly, the 3 a.m. friend. For a lot of people, I am the person that they have on speed dial for when something has really gone off the rails at a ridiculous hour of the night because I will answer them. Assuming they know how to get past my do not disturb. Those people know how to get past it, but or I have them set to pass through that if there's an emergency. But those are choices I'm making. The emotional labor of helping deal with a thing is valuable. It's something I am selecting. It's something I'm choosing. I am not the 3 a.m. friend by default. I'm not the 3 a.m. friend just for casual conversation. I am the 3 a.m. friend for my life has come off the rails and you are the only person I can think of who will pick up the phone and can actually help me. There's a reason I'm planning on going into chaplaincy. That is a large part of the reason. Through all of this kind of pontificating and conversation, we're kind of getting at deciding what we want to carry. So there are some filters that I want to apply to this that you may have picked up on already. Things that will help you decide whether or not to do this unpaid thing. The first thing, of course, is understanding whether or not this is structurally important. Do I have to do this thing? That's not one of the filters, but we've kind of covered that already. The three filters are values, capacity, and season. Is this thing that I'm doing, does this support my values, the things that I hold dear in the core of me? Being the 3 a.m. friend, that supports my values because I believe that nobody should be alone in those time periods if I can help it. Because I've been alone in those time periods. I've been the person who had nobody at 3 a.m. many times in my life. So I choose to be the person that they can call at 3 a.m. because I know what it's like to not have someone. Unpaid labor, but that's part of my values. Capacity. Do I have the ability to do this right now? I've had people come to me with projects that I thought were valuable and important and meaningful that I just couldn't do because I did not have the ability to do that right now. Maybe I had another client or 12 or whatever it looked like. There are a million reasons why I might not be able to do a thing, no matter how important or valuable or necessary I see it as. I just couldn't. It wasn't a referendum on the quality of the thing. I just couldn't. Capacity. Can you do this without destroying yourself? And season. Am I at a point in my career, my personal life, whatever it is, am I in the season where I can do this thing? Am I in a season in my career where I could take a project for somebody that I know that this is really important and I care about it? Am I in a season where I can do this without destroying my bottom line? Not just in capacity, like I might have the space on my schedule, but am I in a place where this project, this job, this whatever it is something that is going to be more rewarding than destructive? Can I carry this? Or am I just kind of rolling into it because I think, well, I mean, I technically have room in my calendar, so I guess. Am I in that season? Those 3 filters will help you determine whether or not this unpaid labor is really something that you want to do, that you want to choose to do. This, like for example, my mentorship, right? We can apply those filters to my mentorship. Mentoring people absolutely is in my values. I believe wholeheartedly in teaching people and pulling them up with me and helping folks grow and develop and be the best possible author, editor, person, fencer, whatever it is they can be. I believe in that. That absolutely matches my values. My capacity. Sometimes I do or don't have capacity for mentorship. It really depends on the individual and what they need. Some people, I can just kind of steer them in a direction and be like, hey, here's some books and things you can read. Here's some stuff you can go listen to. Here's some information that you can kind of digest. You can go off and kind of explore that. I can probably do that. That's within my capacity. In the season, I have been editing for almost 20 years. I have been in the publishing industry for 18 years. I am now the wise old man on the mountain for a lot of people, particularly those just starting out. So I'm absolutely in the season of my career where mentorship and cultivating and helping the next generation and folks who are just learning, develop and grow and become one day what I am now, I'm in that season. So mentorship fits all of those filters. I have the capacity, the interest, the values, and it's the right time in my life to be doing that. However, if it wasn't, we would have to consider what no might look like. No can look like, I'm not answering that email right now. No can say, I'm sorry, I can't take on this project right now, I'm at capacity. No can be, I can't do this, but I know somebody who might be able to help you, let's get you to somebody who can. I can tell you I have many times received clients where they've come to me and been like, hey, I really need this thing. And I've been like, that is awesome and I would be perfect for this, but I am currently booked. However, I know somebody else who might be able to help you. That is part of the process. And also, I have found that there are plenty of times where I have had to learn how to finish with, well, that's good enough. I don't really apply just good enough to client work as much. I apply it more to my own kind of work. So when I say something's good enough, if I'm doing something for me, I will often be like, well, that is sufficient. I am good. Cool. That is enough. And not trying to make it perfect or ideal, but it's good enough. And it just means setting your boundaries and sometimes knowing when I can't do this. And those saying no is okay. Saying no is important. I'm still learning how to say no, so I understand that it is uncomfortable and it can be frightening and it can be stressful, and it is also entirely necessary. So I'm hoping that I can help you learn that before the ripe old age of 40, which is where I'm at. Or alternatively, if you are my age or older and you haven't figured it out yet, I'm still working on it too. You're not behind. We can work on this together. When we decide what we're keeping and what we're getting rid of, we're going to have to make some exits. We're going to have to step out of certain things that we're doing. Some stuff doesn't require an announcement. Some things do. I didn't announce that I'm going to every other week with the podcast. I probably should have, but I didn't. However, I didn't see anybody with pitchforks and torches outside, so I'll count that as a win. Some things do require a little bit more explanation if you're in a partnership or if you are a brand ambassador for something, which I'm not at this point, but someday I might be. That would be cool. But if you're a brand ambassador, you might need to be like, "Hey, so I'm needing to step back for a bit. Thank you for everything. I really appreciate this relationship. Let's, friendly terms, but I gotta go do some other stuff for now because my brain is no longer functioning that way." You can do things in small adjustments, getting people used to you not responding to a work email after 5 p.m. or on weekends. My clients know that I generally don't respond a ton after 5 p.m., and I generally don't respond a ton on weekends. They don't really expect me to. And most people don't really expect me to, and if they do, then they might not be working with the right person. Those are kinds of things that you can develop those expectations, and you don't need to make grand announcements or flounce or anything like that. You can just kind of quietly start doing it and seeing how it goes. It can be small too, like I said, letting the email sit, letting the text message wait, letting the Instagram message chill out for a bit, or letting the comments not be answered for a couple of days. Those are all things that you can do that don't require a great deal of adjustment, announcement, kerfuffle. You can choose not to volunteer for something, which you hear that sigh, that's because I'm really bad at that. I'm really good at a lot of things, and I'm cursed with being competent, which I know sounds like a humble brag, but when you are highly competent, it becomes in many ways a burden because people tend to lean on you because, well, you know what you're doing, so you can do this. And then they pile more and more and more on your plate until suddenly your plate, I can't fucking do this anymore. And that's where I've been for a while. I am competent, and I have also had to say, I'm not doing that just because I'm probably the best person to. Because here's my boundaries and here's why I'm not doing this. It's been hard because people have expectations of me. I'm still learning to do that. But you don't have to volunteer for a thing. You can just not volunteer for the thing. And if you get voluntold, you can say, I really appreciate you thinking of me. Yes, I would probably be good at this. However, and if you're really feeling like you want to set harder boundaries, no is a complete sentence. Whole sentence. None of this process has to be done immediately. It can take time, and it will take time, and it will take practice, and it'll take effort. And so do this in pieces. Start with the low-cost items, so to speak, that you think that you could probably start doing, like not responding to said emails. You can do it in one part of your life, one part of your work, piece by piece. The whole good enough conversation, or letting things be even unfinished. Perfectionism is a thing I struggle with. I have major issues around being perceived as not having done something perfectly. It is a problem for me that I am working on in therapy. So, that is a thing. There's a lot of I won't even say chosen, but assumed labor between something being sufficiently done and something being perfect. The difference between I have made dinner, it is on plates, my family is eating it, and I have made dinner, it is plated perfectly like a restaurant, and I have garnished it. The one where people have food on their plates and are eating it is enough. The garnishing and all the other stuff, not necessary. Not really. Eating food on plates is good enough. Good enough to the idea of it being, this is enough, this is good enough. It protects your energy. It means that I have energy for my next project. It means I have energy for the next thing I have to do today. As a disabled person, I have many times run into situations where I have had to expend energy or have spent all of my energy trying to make something perfect that didn't need to be perfect, and then I couldn't do good enough on any other thing that needed to get done that day. So choosing when good enough protects your energy for the next thing, it really does. And you might not be disabled the way I am, so you might not need to do the same kind of mental accounting I do, but it is still a thing that everybody runs into. Good enough also means that we're not overworking the project. Project, blah, blah. Language, yes, we do that. It means that you're not overdoing it. It means that you're not trying to gild the lily. Sometimes good enough is good enough. If I'm building a bookshelf, it holding my books is plenty. It doesn't need to be painted in a way that is like a Renaissance painting or carved or anything like that. It just needs to hold my books. It's perfectly sufficient, and overdoing it would mean that it would look really weird with the rest of my furniture, which already looks really weird together. We're not going to talk about it, just like the hair, but you know what I mean. And also, like, when it comes to writing, perfect is never achievable. You're never going to have the perfect book. It's never going to be perfect. And then you're going to overwork it and overdo it, and it's going to be a disaster. That means you're protecting your mental health and your relationship to your craft, because if you're trying to pick your book apart because you're searching for perfect, you're not going to. I can pull any book from any Big 5 publisher, from many New York Times best-selling names. I can pull them off my shelves and be like, somebody missed a comma. Or, I would have used a different word there. That does not... I could do that with anything. Anybody who works in the creative sphere at a professional level can look at something like, I know people who could sit and watch a movie and be like, I would have lit that shot a little differently for blah, 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 blah reasons. Perfect is unattainable. It's still a good book. Just because I found a comma missing or a typo doesn't mean it's not a good book. If it was all typos and missing commas, we'd have a problem. But the book is phenomenal. It just is phenomenal with a missing typo. It doesn't matter. Not that much, anyway. It also protects... well, my battery died. Hold on. That whole perfectionism conversation, I'm going to be finishing the rest of this with video, but I needed to finish that statement because if I don't finish this section, I'm never going to get it out. However, it protects the reader, it protects your client. Readers will actually get a book Whereas if we are forever trying to make it perfect, they will never get the book. And clients, if I'm working on a manuscript, they get the manuscript rather than me tinkering with it for 500 years. It's imperfect, but it's done. All right, I'm going to pause here, charge my battery, and then keep going. This is an example of why perfectionism is nonsense, and I guess this is a very real and immediate example of it. So, I'll be back in a bit. Now that I have recharged the battery on my camera and the light is different, we're going to pretend continually. Like, we're all about pretending things today. We're pretending that my hair isn't doing this. We're pretending that the camera's working. We're just in the land of make-believe today. But you know what? That's fine. That's just fine. So, continuing where we left off, talking about things that are unfinished. Not every project has to be finished. Not everyone does. Sometimes you can be like, you know what? I'm just done with this. The number of unfinished knitting and crochet and sketches and so on, like the number of unfinished projects I have around is ridiculous. Some of them I'm actually going to finish. Some of them I have made peace with the fact that where it is sufficient. I don't need to finish this. I have gotten what I needed to get out of it. Sometimes it's like a sketch study where I'm just kind of throwing ideas down and I'm never going to finish the thing. I'm done working on it. I'm happy with it where it is. It doesn't need to be finished. It doesn't need to be rendered or anything else. It did its job. Sometimes my craft project's job is to be a fidget while I do other things. Sometimes that is absolutely its job. So not every project has to be finished, but we can be finished with them, which has to do with like that unpaid labor thing, because if a project is not ever really going to be finished, like this podcast is not a project that has a finish line, it's okay that it's not finished. But sometimes if things don't have a finish line, we feel pressure to continue with them if there's no finish line. Or sometimes we'll have finished a project or been done with a project and we see it and we get guilty because we're just not picking up that knitting project we thought we were going to do. I've got a few of those lying around too that I tried, but I just never quite got my head around, or I ran out of physical steam to do. Sometimes it's okay to just let a project go. Our boundaries that we're talking about here, that we're creating around our time and our energy and our unpaid labor, these boundaries are not because there's some kind of failure involved. It's not because we have failed to accomplish something. We don't need to be defensive of the fact that we need to have boundaries because we're humans, right? People have needs. People have all kinds of needs. Like, I've got needs, you've got needs. And what our needs are isn't something we need to be telling people, I'm sorry about. No, we just have to accept them. Like, I'm working on setting various boundaries, and when a client emails me on a weekend asking something that is urgent to them but not immediate to something that I need to deal with, I'm working on not apologizing but letting people know, hey, I'm out of office until Monday, we'll deal with it then. Thanks. And not apologizing. And that lack of apology for having reasonable boundaries is something that a lot of folks who are AFAB deal with, and a lot of people in general, but particularly AFAB folks, because our boundaries are considered something worthy of apology a lot of the time. It's something I'm working on, and it's something that I wanted to call your attention to as we're working towards the next episode of this. Is going to be the last episode where I'm talking about this, but the unpaid labor bit, because it's labor we're not being forced to do. Some of it's labor we have to do, like emails, but the apology piece, we don't owe anybody an apology for not doing labor we're not being compensated to do, or haven't volunteered to do. For example, if I volunteer to do something at my church and fail to do that thing, then I owe them an apology because I've told them I would, and we've built things based on the fact that I would have done something, but I hadn't. These boundaries in general, though, they're not failure points. You're not less successful because you are choosing not to answer email on weeknights and want to play D&D with your friends. It's okay to have those boundaries. Like, I have boundaries too. Like, no, I cannot free review your entire manuscript. I'm not going to just read your book for you and tell you what I think, because a lot of people think that when you're an editor, oh, just skim it. Just tell me what you think. It doesn't work like that. Reading a book takes 6 to 8 hours of time. And that's if I'm just reading it for funsies. If I'm working on it or really thinking about it, it takes a lot longer than that. So I'm not going to give you feedback on your book for free, but I will maybe give you a sample out of 1,000 words, or we can chit chat a little bit, but I'm not going to just give you my free time, because that's my free time. And I would rather do things that help restore me than stuff that is probably not going to do much for me. If I'm doing a beta read exchange with somebody, like I've got some people who I beta read for who beta read my books. That is a mutual arrangement. That's different. But if we're talking just some rando asking me, hey, can I get your opinion on this thing? Maybe I don't have time for that. And I'm not going to apologize for not having time for somebody asking me to do free work. Like, you don't... Okay, people do. I have a friend who's a nurse, and people are always sending her pictures of weird rashes on various body parts, and like, should I see a doctor about this? Without any kind of warning. And she's just like, I didn't need to see that today, thanks. And so I guess I was going to say you wouldn't ask a doctor their opinion on that kind of thing, but no, people would. I think we need to understand that, obviously, if we're asking somebody to do work that's their job for free, we should probably make sure that there's some kind of relationship there, or some kind of mutuality there of some kind, compensation, whatever it is. And if that person says no, they shouldn't feel bad for saying no. They're allowed to say no, because we have lives. You know, you have lives. You have a life. If you're an accountant and somebody's like, hey, could you please read my tax, do my taxes for free? You'd be like, no, sorry, I cannot. I am very busy curling my cat's hair that night. That kind of thing. You know, there's times when we just say no and not apologize for it. And that's important. Like, and we're going to need to keep saying no. I really wish that you could just set boundaries once and be like, I'm going to do X thing, and then never have to do it again. And it is exhausting, because I'm struggling with boundaries myself. That's something I'm working on. And having to constantly reinforce boundaries and say no consistently when people keep trying to step over that, it's hard. It's very hard. This episode, this series, the next one is going to be the end of this series, and I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be a public figure and the unpaid labor that goes into being a public figure, because being visible is exhausting and stressful. But I think this episode, I kind of want to, excuse me, put down there. I kind of want to ask you a question. Is there something that you've been carrying around with you that you didn't choose to pick up on your own? Is there something that you've been dragging around that just kind of got shoved onto you that you're like, I didn't choose this, but I'm carrying it anyway? And what might it look like if you put it down? You don't have to put it down today, but identify the thing and think about, is this something that I could put down? What might it look like if I did? What would it feel like if I put this down? And consider that. And that's the evaluation I want you to make on some of these unpaid labor pieces that we've been talking about. We have one more video in this series, and then I'm moving on to a different subject entirely. We're going to be talking about writing myths. The myths of what make people a real writer is the series. It's going to go on for a bit, but this whole burnout and unpaid labor bit has been a journey that I've been on because I'm in that place. I've been going through this personally and dealing with it myself. So I'm hoping that you are finding this useful. If you have, please consider sharing this with a friend. Like, comment, subscribe, all the things. If you're on YouTube, hit the little bell so you get notifications. And please consider paying for my Substack. It's only $8 a month. It's not a lot of money, and I publish articles about writing and a lot of this kind of stuff. There's short thoughts through the week for my paid subscribers. So yes, there's actually things behind the paywall now, as you may or may not have noticed. So if you'd like to see those things and hear my thoughts rather than just this podcast episode once every other week, consider finding me on Substack and joining that. I would appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And I am hopeful that you have found this as rewarding as I have, because thinking about all of this has brought a lot to my head. So thank you for being here with me on Authority, where we spill the tea in the publishing industry. As I said, next week we'll be wrapping this series up. And if you are still with me, I hope you're wearing pants. Because if you are wearing pants, you're a step above what I have achieved for today. Because today I am not wearing pants. I'm wearing pajama pants. It's fine. Don't run. Yeah, this is the part of the video where I get personal. It's been a long few weeks. I have had migraines since the beginning of March. It is now the beginning of April, and I have had a migraine pretty much every single day for the last month. It has been exhausting, which is why I only posted one video last month, as I'm sure many of you noticed. If you're at this point in the video, you're probably going to realize that I'm going to be recording the next video today when I'm done with this one. So that's a thing that you can be prepared for. I'm going to change my shirt. So if you've watched to the very end, you will know, but nobody else hopefully should. We'll find out. I'm hoping that I will get a chance to see you in the next couple of weeks. And I'm really excited about this next series I'm going to be doing about writing and the myths around what makes somebody a real writer or not, because there's so much nonsense out there, and I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to bust some of those myths. So keep in touch, stay safe out there. The world is the world right now. If you need some happy news, we have 4 baby cows that were born on my farm in the last month, and I believe there's going to be another one in the next couple of days. They are very cute. I may share photos of them on various outlets if I can find them, but they are very, very cute. So baby cows make everything better. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a good couple of weeks, and take care of yourselves. Take care.